Hello, everyone. Welcome to this session of Talking Tech, Women and Girls in ICT. My name is Ranjini, and today I am delighted to be representing Shanti Bhavan, which is actually a residential school located in South India. And the main objective of Shanti Bhavan is definitely towards empowering children from India's lowest socio-economic class to break the cycle of generational poverty, mainly through education, leadership, and compassion. Today, I'm also excited to be having a conversation about tech and tech careers with Pratibha, who is the Risk and Compliance Program Manager at Google Cloud. Talking Tech is a series celebrating girls and women in tech being recorded around the world between Girls in ICT Day 2020 and Girls in ICT Day 2022. The objective of Girls in ICT Day are to help create a global environment that empowers and encourages girls and young women to consider studies and careers in the growing field of information and communication technologies. The Talking Tech series is brought to you by the ITU, UNICC, and the Office of the UN Secretary General's Envoy on Youth, and is in support of Equals, the global partnership for gender equality in the digital age. Shanti Bhavan is pleased to be a partner on this session today. The objective of the series will mainly include one, to bring before a broader audience role model women in tech and share information about their career journeys and work. And two, offer a diverse example of how ICT is being used to support achievement of the Sustainable Development Goals and other UN goals. So, to kick off this session, I actually feel a little compelled to share a bit about my background and my journey thus far. So I, in fact, grew up in a residential school, Shanti Bhavan. And unlike other school memories and experiences that we usually have, for me, it's actually very difficult to put into words what Shanti Bhavan represents and the impact it has had in my life and the life of not just me, but actually many more children in South India. So, coming from an economically deprived background where our families earn almost less than $1 a day, it's difficult for children like me to actually have had dreams. Our destiny, as they say, was actually perhaps something that was already written. For girls like me, in an Indian society that I grew up in, getting married at the age of 18, having kids and settling down was the norm. Getting an education was out of the question, mainly because of financial constraints. Shanti Bhavan has not just been a school to me, but also a home for me for the past 24 years. At the age of 5, when the school actually started off, I got selected and I went to study at Shanti Bhavan. And at that point, when I think about it, little did I know at that point that my life was actually going to drastically change. But now, in fact, when I kind of reflect back, I can actually appreciate and see the difference it's made in my life, because every time I'm at home, I can compare changes in my life to those in my community, and I see that there is such a big difference. Growing up in a co-ed residential school, I actually grew up 24 by 7 around like guys as well. So I learned to respect myself, and in fact, I never once felt that I was less or lower or different from the male gender. I was actually taught to appreciate diversity and empower myself to dream. And that is what kind of led me to believe that always opened up doors to opportunities for me. And then whenever I came back home, I kind of was faced with reality. And that's something that made me realize the value of education. So soon after graduating from Shanti Bhavan, I was not only able to finish college at one of the top universities in Bangalore, but also landed a job at Goldman Sachs, one of the top leading investment banks around the world. And currently, I'm actually also pursuing my MBA at the Asia School of Business, which is located in Malaysia. The reason why I bring this up is because I think I'm going to be talking with you, Pratibha, and I would love our viewers to see that as a girl, it doesn't matter which community you've been brought up in, but as long as you're given the opportunity, even girls and women can shine in industries such as tech. So, without, I think, in fact, our audience today, I think just a quick brief. In case you guys do want to know about Shanti Bhavan, please do go check out shantibhavanchildren.org, or also check out the Netflix series called Daughters of Destiny. As you can see, growing up in a very well gender balanced educational institution, my dream about joining workplaces that have a diverse culture and also industries such as the tech and digital transformation is something that I'm super passionate about. So now, with no further ado, I'm super excited to now shift my conversation to Pratibha, a risk and compliance program manager at Google Cloud. So, how about we start with you, Pratibha, introducing yourself? I know I've known you for a bit now, but our viewers would love to hear about you and also what drove you to this industry.
Thank you very much, Ranjini. And it really is a pleasure to be here with you today. The story of Shanti Bhavan and Dr. George is truly inspirational. And as you said earlier, education is the road to empowerment. Education just equips us, to deal with life and be successful. And it is kudos to you that you have taken the opportunity to also, use this gift that you have been given and really to truly utilize it. So my story, I was also just like yourself, blessed with very high quality, good education, plus the encouragement that women are inferior is a myth which we all need to bust. I was very privileged to be in this very nice, very forward looking school. The nuns, who taught me that, you could dream about anything and make it true one day. So I studied computer science for my master's degree. And I was always interested in science, especially actually physics. And as a child, I read an article about the fundamental elements, that make up matter. And since then, I dreamt of being a particle physicist. I did then get the opportunity to pursue particle physics. I got a fellowship to work at CERN in Geneva, which is what brought me to Switzerland from India. And I did my PhD and I worked in research. Tech was always part of, as an experimental physicist, I mean, you're dealing with technology, with electronics and programming. So besides physics analysis and building detectors and analyzing data, I mean, there was a lot of technology was always part of my job. Then though, at year 12, I suddenly felt like, I don't see myself, doing this for the rest of my life. And life is too short and I want to explore other, areas and sectors. And I started examining, where I could land up. And financial services was one very obvious choice, given the quantitative analytical skills plus technology, because financial services do use a lot of technology as well. And I got a job, in a large bank, a large Swiss bank, and moved cities and spent about 12 years working in risk management in the bank. So initially, I had to learn all about banking. I did not know anything. And it was very exciting, though, the learning, the steep learning curve, that is something I have always enjoyed and I do enjoy. At one point, again, I kind of felt banking, I know enough about it, at least the company I knew everything about. So it was time for a change. And I moved to a fintech securities firm. I was able to, apply my risk management knowledge and help them, with the problem that they had to solve, which is, to have a proper risk framework. And then came the opportunity, and a large insurance company, offered me a role similar, to help them with risk management. So I moved there. After this, I felt like, well, for my next opportunity, wouldn't it be great if I could go back to my roots in tech and, help out more companies with their transformation journeys, being part of a technology company, which is helping, all the entire, all actually everyone, especially in cloud services. And that led me to Google and to my current job. And in this job now, I mean, of course, we provide Google Cloud, we provide technology platform and also software to different, industries. And my role particularly is looking at Google's cloud offerings and whether, they comply with regulations in different, in jurisdictions. And because, financial services, healthcare, they're all heavily regulated. For clients, to be able to use our services in our platform, we need to be compliant with those regulations. So that is my focus, at the moment.
That's amazing to hear. So I think what I really like about when I look at our industry experience is we have two things in common. One is both of us have actually had experience in investment banking. And the second one is definitely that we've been more inclined to risk management at some point in our career. So I think my next question to you would be since you've moved across industries and also across countries, what is it that you love so much about your job and just in specific technology? You came back into the technical field, right? So what do you love so much that you came back to this?
I mean, one thing I really like about technology is that it's not static.
Yeah.
So, there's always something new to learn because, it's evolving so fast. The other thing that I really, really inspires me about technology actually is the difference it makes in people's lives. So let's think about the pandemic, and the special times we've been living through. Or for that matter, just that, you're sitting in Bangalore, I'm in Zurich, and we are able to, just have this conversation. It's amazing. This was not possible just a few years ago. If we did not have, the internet, video call conferencing, all these, facilities, imagine how much harder life would have been living through this. I mean, imagine people are working from home and they're not able to go to their offices, yet, the world did not come to a standstill. Pretty much everything worked, continued to work and operate. And internet shopping, being able to just sit at home and order, food, etc. I mean, the basic necessities. I mean, without technology, this would not have been possible. Also, being able to keep in contact with your loved ones. My parents, my mother, she lives in India, and it hasn't been possible to travel. However, just technology makes it possible that I'm able to see her, and speak to her.
I totally agree with that bit. I think this pandemic has actually tested all, not just industries, but individuals as a person itself. Um, the pandemic was something that we all did not expect, we all did not prepare for, but I've seen so many changes, like industries culture of just flexibility around people working from home has changed drastically, and businesses are still thriving with people working from home. And so it's not about that people cannot function from different locations, but it's wonderful to see how technology has made that possible today, whether it is conference calls, whether it is giving people flexibility to work from home. And I definitely vouch with your statement of how technology is one thing that's not static, and there's constant change, there's constant adaptation. And in order to keep up with today's world, we have to keep up with technology.
Yeah, very true. So,
Yeah.
what inspires you about technology, Ranjini?
So for me, actually, in fact, unlike you, I never did my engineering. I did my big BBM, which was more business related, and then went on to an investment bank, more into the operation space. But I think it was during my career at Goldman Sachs that I started getting very, very intrigued and interested into more technical aspect, but I think it was more towards data and data analytics. So I remember back at Goldman, I was in one of the back end offices, and we used to do reconciliations for a day to day activity. And there was this one reconciliation that used to take me 4 hours to just complete because of the volume of like client information that we had, but also the manual nature of it being done out of Excel. So you would think that a corporate such as Goldman or any investment bank would have every bit of technology in place. But it's surprising to see that even industries such as so big actually rely on like simple things like Excel to do manual critical stuff. So it was during that time that when I was doing this process, I saw a lot of people running away from having to touch this process. But something always excited me about it, though it used to take me 4 hours and I was always waiting for my Excel to like refresh. And that's where I saw an opportunity, knowing that how about we just automate this process? And it wasn't about it's not possible. I think people keep delaying it, thinking, what are the different constraints involved in automating any manual process? And I think during my time of working on that project, I realized that there was so much of a gap between like businesses and technology. And my role as being able to coordinate with technical related aspects that core technical people such as yourself as engineers working towards making business demands and needs fulfilled, I saw there's actually a big gap. And I thought perhaps this is something I would like to bridge this gap. And that's what actually drove me towards looking for careers more into the digital marketing space. So, right now, with me doing my MBA also, my core upskilling of my learnings have been very driven towards digital marketing, but I think it was more towards digital transformation as well, because I feel rightly, like you said, there is so much that technology keeps updating itself that we have to keep up with technology. So the same way, I think there is so much data today, like everyone is coming online, every business is online, and there's so much data that you can understand and interpret. Imagine e-commerce business, for example. It's always fascinated me how they understand like consumers behavior just sitting behind their laptops, and your consumers are out there using their phone, and you as a business are able to interpret human behavior based on just a small telephone. So that always fascinated me, and I feel like companies and just industries are moving more towards a digital transformation era. And I feel that's kind of what interests me, excites me, and constantly challenges me. So that's how I've been inclined towards tech and tech related industries.
I do recall those, yeah, those very manual, Excel manipulations, common in financial services.
Like you were saying, Excel is so manual, but I must add a fun fact. I love Excel. Like you give me any data on Excel and you ask me to figure things out. I love playing around with Excel as much as it's very redundant sometimes.
No, it is a very practical tool. Yeah, there's
Yeah.
no doubt about it. Yeah, and we've all used enough of it in financial services. It is still heavily relied upon.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think just more into your industry experience, Pratibha. Over your years of working not just at Google, but while switching roles and switching industries as well, could you perhaps like give me some insight into something that's challenged you during this journey, and maybe something that you are super proud of?
Good question, Ranjini. So, in terms of challenges, one thing, be it anyone, and here we have to be agnostic about, the sex of the person or, where they come from. Changing sectors is not as easy as it sounds. So, when I first decided that I wanted to leave academia and physics and move into the real world, I applied for many jobs and had many conversations with many people. And the question is, what will I do with a physicist in consulting? And here, I mean, again, I was taught then that I need to focus on my transferable skills and how those skills, can be employed and used, in whichever company I was approaching. Even with that, though, it was not always, it wasn't easy to convince people that you could do the job because you did not have X number of years of experience doing the same thing somewhere else. Now, you would think why anybody would change if they wanted to go and do exactly the same thing again, right?
Mhm.
So, this is something, I mean, throughout my career, I have been very supportive of people who wanted to change sectors like myself. Moving afterwards, to the fintech and the insurance company was not that hard because I did have risk management as my, speciality, which skill set that they needed. I am very proud, nevertheless, about having been able to navigate across different sectors. And I just like learning very much. So, with all the changes that I made, I brought something to the table, and in return, I got to learn something. So, and that is what has driven me to change as well. Once my learning saturates in any given job, it is time to move. And moving to Google again, I am very happy to be back in tech. It's also, the culture in the company is very different. And it kind of, reminds me of my days at CERN, when I was surrounded by scientists. And yet, I am working with financial services companies and many more of them. So it is very, very, exciting, interesting, and, makes me want to get up every morning and go to work.
That's amazing. I think the best bit about going to work, if you are so motivated to wake up and go to work, that just shows your passion for the job and how much you really like it as well. So I guess my next question, Pratibha, to you would be maybe what are the challenges you as a woman or as a girl growing up that you faced when you wanted to pursue your education in the engineering field, for example? Like we both share a background from being brought up and studying here in India. And I know there are a lot of challenges when you as a girl stand up and say, I want to become like a doctor or I want to become an engineer. So while growing up, did you face any challenges as a girl, or did you face any challenges in your career as a woman in this space?
Well, I must say I was very lucky to have very supportive and very ambitious parents. My parents, they were educated,
Mhm.
and they also valued education very much. And they always encouraged me to excel, in school. So there was quite a lot of pressure as well. I was the oldest child, and they made sure that we went to all good schools, and also they put in a lot of effort in teaching and ensuring that I was doing well in class. And
Mhm.
as I had mentioned earlier, I went to, at least I spent 5 years in this one school where the nuns, and teachers, they were extremely motivating, and they all wanted to, there was a huge focus on what career you're going to go for, and a lot of encouragement, to take careers and to not in any way think you're inferior, to men. After this, college, university was quite easy, I would say. I went to an all girls college and studied physics, and then my master's degree. Somehow, in during my master's degree, we girls were in the majority. So, as such, while studying, I don't think, I faced any discrimination as such. If anything, there was a lot of encouragement. Of course, in society, generally, there was a lot of, it is not easy, right? Right from eve teasing, not being able to go out, there are so many restrictions, that you have to live with. And clearly, those disadvantages were there. But overall, I would not complain about it. And during my working career as well, I would say that, I tried to um, ignore quite often, if I was at a disadvantage, and focused always on my strengths. And the good education I had gave me the confidence, to face anybody and be confident in my own, abilities. I think this self confidence, plays a big role as well, because if you're confident, people view you differently as well, and they kind of see, your skills more, and are able to kind of trust you more, and to lead and give you more responsibility. So it all goes back to a good education, actually.
Yeah.
Really. Yeah.
Yeah.
What about you, Ranjini, so far in your career? Have you faced any challenges, and what are the challenges, the biggest challenge that you have faced?
I think, interestingly enough, similar to you, I was blessed. I think, like I gave you an example, Shanti Bhavan, I never felt that because we grew up even whether it was sports. I grew up playing football with the boys, and I was as competitive as them. I pushed myself equally hard as them. So I never grew up thinking that I was any less than the other gender. I always uh, grew up wanting to dream big. And I knew that the only way I could achieve those dreams was through pure hard work and keeping that dream alive. So today, if I were to like reflect back, whether it was getting into one of the top universities at in Bangalore, I too studied in an all girls college and did my BBM there. But then moving on to Goldman, I think one thing that I loved about that was definitely the culture. I think it is so much easier to work with companies that have a really good culture, whether it is inclusion, diversity, and just the respect of humans as people as humans, and not regarding which race you come from or which gender you are. So I think that's one thing I respected Goldman for. I never felt that bias. I always knew that if there was an issue, no matter how senior the male uh, manager was, I could always go and approach him. So that way, I never faced it. I think it also, I think to your point, it also comes down to your education, the way you've been brought up. So I must say I was blessed to have been brought up. Unlike apart from like my education institute, I think one thing I could always rely on was my family. uh, Even though they came from communities of backgrounds where education was not their biggest asset, one thing I always looked up to them was my mom had two daughters. And in an Indian society, especially in the lower communities, the moment a parent has a daughter, it's looked up on as the daughter is like a burden to the family. But my mom was one strong, inspirational woman. Like till date, I look up to her and always wonder, like, what confidence she had to sacrifice 17 years of her life and my life being together to send me off to a residential school, because I was the first batch at Shanti Bhavan. So the day my mom left me and my mom and dad left me at the school gates, it was just one building and barren land across. So I have no idea what drove her to leave her daughter there and walk away with that trust. But I think that level of confidence constantly was a reminder to me that she did that sacrifice so that I could get an education. I could do something different in my life as compared to what her life was destined to be. So today, if I were like, I don't think I would tackle challenges around this diversity aspect in a very negative way. I think I have the courage to work in diverse companies. I have the courage to work across divisions, whether I'm reporting to male managers or female managers. I tomorrow want to be one of those transformational leaders who can inspire other women and girls like me to believe that nothing is impossible. You just have to put your right foot forward and just move on ahead.
Great, Ranjini. That's really nice to hear.
Thank you
And
so
more
much.
power to you. Yeah.
Thank you. I guess for our viewers, Pratibha, maybe a fun side about you. Apart from your normal day to day job in this rat race of uh, career in the tech industry, and especially at Google, you have a fantastic job there. Perhaps could you give us like an insight into what do you do outside of your normal day to day job? What are the fun things? What are your hobbies? Who are you as a person outside of your work life?
Well, thank you, Ranjini, for that question. If I like to put it, what I really enjoy is learning again, and be it other cultures, countries, cuisine, and places, history, everything. I mean, I'm just very, very knowledge hungry, and so I read a lot. I travel. I like to travel a lot. Of course, in this pandemic times, that hasn't been possible. And besides that, I love nature and the outdoors. So I just like to go, for long walks, especially on the weekend with our dog, through the forests. And, now that spring, summer is coming, to Zurich, I'm looking forward, to more time outdoors. And I do like to, as a way of giving back, I like to mentor people, and especially, ones who want to change careers. So I volunteer, for example, with the CERN Alumni Association, to help physicists and other, scientists working at CERN who are looking to move out into the real world. So that is something I do as a way of giving back. What about you, Ranjini? What do you like to do outside, your studies and work?
So I'm an outdoor person, similar to you. I love sports. From a young age, I've been playing all kinds of sports. As long as it's outdoors, you know that I will be on the field. So football has always been my passion. It's also, I call it my stress buster. Working at Goldman or anywhere else, the moment I need a break, for me, it's expressing that by playing. I do enjoy listening to music. I love to travel as well, and that was one of the reasons I took up an international MBA as well, so I could get the opportunity to explore cultures across. Um, I guess that's about it. I do love pets as just like you. Hopefully, one day. I've always dreamt and about coming to Switzerland, so maybe. Because the pandemic is not going to let me come there, I guess I should just like drop you a text to send me pictures of your walks once in a while.
Sure, I would be happy to do that. And likewise, I haven't been to Malaysia. I think you're going to be in now.
Yes, yes.
I haven't been. It's on my destination list, so I would look forward to getting pictures from, wherever you are in Malaysia as well.
Yes, that would be
Mm.
fantastic.
Yeah.
I guess to end our session, my last question definitely would be to our viewers. There's going to be a lot of young women and girls. What is the message that you would like to send to these young women in tech, or even maybe not so young women in tech, or companies and just academic students out there?
My advice to the young women out there would be to not be afraid to study and take up careers in technology. It is very, very satisfying and fulfilling. And you will be really, truly, changing the world. Focus on your education, work hard, and dream big. And as long as, you're focused and you work hard, any dream can be fulfilled. But, do pay attention to your toolkit, which is your education. So focus on the education part very much and acquire as many skills as you can.
Thank you so much for that inspiring message to our viewers. I would like to conclude this by also telling our viewers, the young girls and women watching the series, like Pratibha mentioned, do not lose your confidence. Today's world has revolved so much and evolved so much that we as women and we as girls can do so much in today's world. We can become presidents of countries, we can become CEOs of companies, and if not for education, it's that self belief in yourself. So, with that, that wraps our session for today for Talking Tech, Women and Girls in ICT. Thank you so much, Pratibha. I loved our conversation today. And thank you so much to our viewers who are watching this series.
Thank you, Ranjini. It has been a real pleasure speaking to you today.
Thank you so much.